There's our live button. We are live. Welcome everybody to Voices of the Goddess. It's just me today. Allison got stuck in a doctor's appointment and it's okay. But this, I even forgot to say, this podcast is all about women, empowering women. We know that there is a goddess inside each of you and you have wisdom to share with all the other goddesses out there in the world. So we're here to lift each other up and support each other. And today I'm so excited about this guest. This is one of the most powerful goddesses I know on the planet, Mayor Jane Bolin. Thank you so much for being here. Will you please tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So first of all, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. And I'm so excited that this is your project and this is what you're bringing to the world. So thank you. All right. So about me, I am the mayor of Oakland Park right now. I was elected to office in 2018, but look, I was born in Korea in 1975. I grew up in the DC area. I am an attorney by trade, but I'm really an entrepreneur. I own 2 businesses. I've also built and sold another business. And, I love living. I'm very passionate about being involved in the community. There's lots of boards that I've been involved in, a lot of, sort of accolades. Here's the CV, but who I am, it's somebody who's really passionate about life and giving back and really making a difference, right? I want to be all used up when it's done. So I put all my energy out there as much as I can. Yeah.
Yes. And I see you doing it. I see you living it. And that's why I'm so excited to have you here on the show, because you are truly a powerhouse of a woman that goes out there and gets everything done. So if you're ready, we're going to dive straight into the questions.
Sure.
All right. So the first question is, what is your superpower, or what would you choose it to be?
So yeah, everyone's got a superpower. So, my superpower as a human being, I think, is something I've learned is being really just aware. So we talk a lot about being present now, be here now, but can you do it when you're having a conversation, dealing with an argument, having somebody come at you? Can you be clear? And it's not a superpower I was born with. It's a superpower I cultivate, and I cultivate every day. But that is my superpower. It's just being aware and clear in situations so I can see everything that's actually happening.
Yeah. So you're
go ahead.
So you're responding instead of reacting.
Yeah, right. I can hear myself reacting in my own brain and be able to understand that that's what's happening and then still have clarity, right? So I can even hear my own biases, my own context, my own point of view trying to rear itself when I'm trying to just be present. Yeah, it makes a world of difference. It really does.
And it is how to calm that voice and not let it rear its ugly head. And how many times have we had words just fall out of our mouth and you're like, oh, I need to pull those back. But once they're out, you can't. So having that skill to be aware, okay, I hear you, and I still get to make a choice and respond in a way that's going to be beneficial to all parties involved. That's really, truly a special skill. Do you have any tools that help you do that?
Well, I mean, it does take a lot of practice. I have a personal practice, and I have a trainer who I work with. I mean, I've done a lot of work in my lifetime, a lot of what you would call self-help, sort of that's what we called it in the 80s, self-help work to now where it's people like to call it transformational work. But yeah, so I have trainers, I believe, I say to anyone, you want to get somewhere, have a coach, have somebody support you. That's what you need. You don't go to the Super Bowl without one, last I checked.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
If life is the Super Bowl, go arm yourself with folks who can support you. So yes, I do. I have trainers, and it's great. And I think, I work with self-discovery right now, Life Mastery. I work with Susan James personally, which is awesome. But it's everyone gets called to what they get called to. So I'm never pitching for one thing or the other.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Our next question is, what is a book that has greatly influenced your life?
Oh, so there have been a lot of books, right? There's been a lot of books that have influenced my life.
But you get to pick one today.
Just pick one. I mean, I'm going to pick what's most recent. Actually, that's influenced my life recently is a book that a good friend of mine gave to me. It's a children's storybook called The Gift of Nothing. And it's really awesome. So I would suggest it's an easy read, and how much fun is, and how much incredible knowledge there is in children's books, by the way. I would, for all of you who read, voraciously all the good things that you need to learn about, I would look at children's books. But yeah, The Gift of Nothing. Check that
out. We've talked about children's books before on this show, and there are so many of them that are filled with messages. And yes, let's bring those out and share them with our children because they are the future. But also as adults, when you can sit back and actually absorb the messages that come from them. And, people talk about, if you can't explain something at a level that a child can understand it, then you don't really understand it yourself.
Sure.
And so,
then you don't understand. I would say this, I think, what's cool about children's books is you really get, as adults, we think there's some sort of big answer to everything, and we want the manual on how to do it. And most of everything is pretty basic. I think that's what's so fun about the children's books, perspective is oh, this is all just really big. What's the most powerful thing in the universe? Be here now. I mean, how many times are you going to write that? How are you going to write? I mean, and by the way, everyone writes about it all kinds of different ways, so I don't know. I think that's cool. Kids' books, love it.
Awesome. All right. So our next question is, because this is something that I feel like we as women neglect too much in our lives, and it's self-care. So what is your favorite self-care practice?
So I think self-care is around self-love and self-alignment. And so recently, my latest self-care practice is to actually have what I want when I want it when I'm eating. So get this, right? We have all these ideas about what we like, what we don't like. And then we have all these very, smart people have told us what to eat, what not to eat. Carbs, keto, what do you do? What's healthiest for you? So what I've been doing is actually just saying when I sit down now, what do I feel like? What do I want to have? What is going to make me excited? And some things that I've discovered, I really like the flavor of grape. And you know what? When I go to the store, it's there's certain things that I really just like. So white pizza, this sounds crazy, Julia. But I'm oh, I don't like I like white pizza. I'm really excited that I know that now. And I'm I'm ordering white pizza, that's what I'm getting. And I like it super crispy, and that's how it's going to go. Versus, oh, well, what I should get is this thing or whatever. It's been kind of fun, and what I'm finding is that kind of self-care, satiating what it is I want, boy, I feel better.
Well, and I think if we allow ourselves those things, as opposed to always doing what we should, my thing is, so I've been doing a lot of celery juice, and I've done it various times over the last several years. And I know that the celery juice has helped me heal a lot of things in my body. But there become times where it's I can't even swallow the stuff. It's just it's disgusting right now. And I'm and I say to myself, how can this possibly be doing anything healing in me right now when everything in me just does not want to consume it? And so if you can't take something and put it in your body with pleasure, how is it serving you at all? So you have all this negative energy around it. So it's just even though celery juice is good, if I'm taking it with negative energy, it's not going to do anything positive for me. And if you take something, mm-hmm, right? Exactly. And, not that we're advocating going out and eating, 10 gallons of ice cream every day or anything. But if you allow yourself to have the things that you want.
Oh, for sure. You're satiated. Exactly. You have I have one slice of white pizza. I don't need 3 cheese. Like, it's just like, oh, I love that. That was awesome. So I think, we're really wired up to, sort of be in this space where we think we know what's good for us. And so we listen to all of this, but we don't listen to this. So if you listen to your intuition, and there's times where it is really good for you. And then there's times where it doesn't work for you. I mean, people who do sort of like food testing with kinesiology will tell you like, oh yeah, this week, no chicken. Next week, no pepper. And you're like, what? This makes no sense. It's like, yeah, your body doesn't like it. So like, how much more can you tune into your body? How much more can you? And I think that's the ultimate self-care. I mean, it's the ultimate, do I need the massage? Do I want to sleep in? Or is this the night I'm dancing all night long? I don't know. But yeah, be aligned with yourself. Listen to your intuition for sure.
Completely. So the other big question that weighs on all of our goddesses' minds is like, we know what we have to do. We know, like, we've got, I don't know a woman who has a more busy schedule than you, but how do you create accountability in that? How do you make sure you get everything done that needs to get done?
Sure. So that's been a journey, right? I learned early on how to master my calendar and how to master the actual operation of how I use I live out on my calendar, but for me, it's like, if I'm giving my word to something, there's got to be a time and space in which I'm doing it. And that includes, even if I say I'm going to think about something, right? Like, oh, I'm going to plan your wedding or your baby shower. Well, you got to have some time to think about it, unless you're just sort of willy-nilly walking down the street thinking about, something super important for your friend. So yeah, I learned how to master the calendar. So when I make a commitment, it requires time. That's the reality here. So I put that in the calendar. And now I'm at the point where, like, everything changes, right? You start to master things and then things show up differently. Life shows up differently. And so now I'm starting to master more around inside of accountability, being accountable to the things that I said I really wanted in my life. And it's really funny because before I'd be like, oh, calendar the workout time, calendar the time with your husband, calendar these other things other than work, right? But now I'm just giving myself space. So I know, like, even this morning, I gave myself the space to allow the stuff to show up the way I needed. The conversation with my husband, the workout that I wanted to get in, which was now, I would never have calendared for 90 minutes, but that's what it was, because I created space for it all to show up. So I think there's no, you do what I'm doing and that's going to work. But I do know that I learned, like, pretty rigorously how to manage my word inside of my calendar. And then now I'm like, oh, I also need to manage what I want and what I'm holding myself accountable to. That's a bigger picture. So wellness time needs to be just time. Not before I'd be like, oh, I'm taking care of myself because I have a trainer 3 times a week and I'm going to get a massage. That's not really, and then I'm like, why are these not giving me results? So I'm just sort of in a different place with it. But yeah, I think it's a transition. I think it starts with the calendar. I do. I think the calendar is your ultimate accountability. You can have a buddy, but what, shaming you and guilting you into doing something? I don't know. I don't know if that's how I want it to be done.
Well, and like prioritizing and what has meaning. If it has meaning for your life, you can create the space for it.
Always.
And how many times are we like spent doing things like because we think they need to get done, but like if we step back and analyze, like,
right,
does this really need to get done, or am I just
making
creating more busy work for myself?
Right. Or I think I should be doing this because the other person that did it this way. They went to 5 events and joined 3 chambers and so you think that's the roadmap. But that's how we're taught to learn, right? Here's the roadmap, learn it, memorize it, do it again.
Yeah, I just had that conversation earlier today about shoulds. Should. And like, we need to wipe out the shoulds in our life and not do what other people think we should do, and not do what we've programmed ourselves to think that we should do, but really like evaluate what do we want to create? What do we want to manifest in our life? And stop looking at what other people think needs to happen, and truly like honor ourselves. And
one of the things I hear in that is around the evaluation part, right? Like, I think sometimes we are so caught in our own heads, you know, and we think that we have to evaluate, because that's what you do. To solve a problem, you evaluate it, right? So we get caught in our heads though, then now we're not doing the shouldas, but we're like all in the goal, you know, and there's nothing wrong with goals and, you know, all that stuff. But then you're like all in your head versus, hey, what does this want to do?
mm-hmm.
Like, when did you really check in on, is this doing what it wants to do in your profession, in your bed, in your house, in your car? Like, is this thing like, yeah, all the time? Or is it like, oh, yeah, shoulda. Right? So I don't know. For me, I'm like, I really want people to feel more, feel what they love. You know, we talk about that. You know, there's that really famous quote, right? If everybody was like living their self-expression or their passion, like, the world would be at peace. Yeah, no kidding. Right? So people need to, but to do that, you have to feel yourself, like literally get in touch with yourself.
And that's something like from day one when we met, Jane, like I feel you feeling life. Like there's always passion behind, you know, just having this conversation with you. Like, I can feel your passion and energy behind what you're saying. And I know that you're feeling what you're talking about. And, you know, that's a space that I hope that more people can get into, is like truly feeling. Because how, you know, so often like we put up these walls to not, because sometimes it's hard to feel.
Oh,
and so like I put up all these walls so I don't feel anything, and then we end up working completely from here, and there's no passion and no satisfaction when we're here. So
right, but you just nailed it, right? Because it's not easy, because this is all about duality. So there is not love if there is not hate. So you are going to feel pain, right, to have the pleasure. Like, it's just constant. It's like, there you go, there you go, there you go. And for me, I always just remember, you got to get through the dark to get to the light. Like, look at the cycle of the day. There is no daytime until there's nighttime. You can be that the nighttime is bad. And we use the night as a metaphorical, things are not working the way you want it to, and the day is wonderful. So if we use that metaphor, it's like, yeah, well, you've got to go through the night to get to the day. And we don't go through the night. You know, we do lots of other things. And the easy things you think of are like drinking, drugs, you know, constant relationships, you know, eating, whatever. Everyone's got some flavor of how but generally, like, how often are we really pushing each other to feel all the feels? You know, someone's upset you. What do you want to do? You want to make them feel better. We don't like step back and say, you know what? Just be upset. Yeah, that goes.
You get to feel your feels. Yeah.
Your feels. We should have one of those happy hours. We just have to feel. Man, it's gonna be great. Come as you are, happy, sad, whatever it is.
And think about too, like, how often do, you know, people ask you, how are you? And everybody says, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Like, when I ask people, how are you? Like, I'm really opening up the space to like share with me, like, how are you?
Right. Yeah.
Because it's okay. It's however you are, it's okay. And you can let me know.
Yep. That's what we can bring to the world, which is what you're doing with your podcast. Right? I mean, it's cool. Really cool.
100%.
I love it.
Woo! All right. It is takeaway time.
Okay.
So my takeaway from our conversation today, Jane, is I want to start paying more attention to what I want, when I want, and allowing myself to have it. Whether that's food or anything, you know, like you said, it could be a massage, it could be a facial, it could be, you know, I need to go walk in the park, or just giving myself permission to do those things that feel right more often.
That's so awesome. I love that. I love that.
What's your takeaway?
Yeah, for me, I mean, one, it's always awesome to see you and have these conversations. But, you know, I'm just really inspired by the idea that you're putting together. I mean, I looked at the lineup of all the folks that you'd spoken to before in the last year, And I'm really feeling into like what you want to create here, right? And so this voice of the goddess is just, it's just a beautiful space. And so what I get is just more of that connection and more passion to support, you know, this is yours and Allison's, and it's for the world, you know? So like, how can we support you is all I feel right now, is just, yeah, let's get more of this happening out in the world. And so, yeah, I take that away, and I take away deep gratitude for you and appreciation.
I love you.
I love you too.
So thank you so much for coming on the show and taking the time out of your busy day, for putting me on the calendar. I appreciate that.
You were on the calendar for sure.
I'm on Jane's calendar. Awesome. That's so awesome. And thank you to our audience for joining in. And yeah, how we can support this movement. Watch our shows, subscribe, like them, and most of all, share them with other goddesses out there. And we all really get to lift each other up and support each other. And, you know, like we said, this isn't always easy, but together we can do this, and we can make this world a better place. And let's lift each other up. And so if you liked what you saw on the show, like I said, go find us on YouTube, iTunes, we're everywhere. Subscribe, like, share. The stuff that we talked about today in this podcast, you'll find it in the show notes, so you can, you know, go back and check in where to find that book, and all of that will be in their notes, and as well as any information on how to get in contact with any of us. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Jane, again so much for carving out some time on your calendar for us. And we'll see you all soon.
All right. Bye. Thank you.